The moment the little girl's hand tightened around her mother's fingers, something in the crowded, chandelier-lit restaurant shifted, softly, quietly, like fate clearing its throat. The child looked up with an excitement far too big for her tiny frame, tugging her mother forward with the kind of determination only a toddler can possess. And that was the exact second when everything changed, long before the mother knew why her daughter had pulled her there, long before she realized who was sitting at that white cloth table across the room, and long before she understood how one unexpected moment could turn years of loneliness into something warm, something hopeful, something that finally made sense. If you believe in kindness, in healing, and in second chances life gives when you least expect them, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps these stories reach more hearts like yours. Emma Hayes had never wanted to be here. Blind dates were for people who still believed in fairy tales, and she had lost that belief the day her husband walked out, leaving her with a baby girl in her arms and a mortgage she could barely afford. Still, her friend insisted she try again, try anything, because motherhood didn't have to be a sentence of solitude. But Emma wasn't dressed for a date tonight. No makeup, no fancy heels, just a simple beige dress she wore because it was clean and because her daughter said she looked pretty like a princess in it. She didn't believe that, not really. But her daughter's joy was contagious, irresistible, and so she came. Her little girl, Lily, was the kind of child people gravitated toward naturally, sunshine bottled into a toddler's body. She was the reason Emma kept pushing every single day, even when she felt like collapsing. Lily tugged at her mother now, her tiny dress bouncing with each excited step. She didn't know about blind dates or heartbreak or bills. She only knew that mommy looked sad lately, and sad mommies needed surprises. Emma glanced nervously around the restaurant, searching for the men her friend had described. She wasn't expecting much. The last few blind dates felt more like job interviews where she had to prove she hadn't failed at life. She hated those nights. She hated the pity in men's eyes when she said she was a single mother. She hated the polite nod that followed, like she had become someone's charity project. Lily, however, wasn't searching for any blind date. She was pointing toward something, or someone, else entirely. And before Emma could ask what she saw, her daughter let go of her hand and gasped with the kind of pure delight that made strangers turn their heads. That was when Emma saw him. A man in a gray suit sat beside a small boy who looked almost the same age as Lily. The man's shoulders were broad, his posture straight, but his smile was soft. It softened everything about him, even the hard lines of his jaw. He was listening to the boy talk about something with utter fascination, a warmth in his eyes Emma hadn't seen in a very long time. Not in anyone. Not even in herself. And Lily, sweet, bold, unpredictable Lily, was already pointing straight at him, her voice bright as she whispered, "Mommy, look." Emma's breath caught. She didn't want to stare, but something about that man held her. He looked like he belonged in a magazine, or at the head of a boardroom table. Everything about him radiated confidence and success. He didn't look like someone she should be crossing paths with, especially not tonight, especially not when she felt so small. But fate didn't care. As Lily pulled Emma closer, the man lifted his eyes at the exact moment Emma's gaze dropped. For a second, just a second, she forgot how to breathe. His expression shifted, surprise, recognition of something familiar, something shared. His son turned too, and the little boy's face lit up at the sight of Lily staring back. Emma tried to turn away, embarrassed by the attention, but Lily took that choice from her. The toddler marched directly to the table, stopping right in front of it and pointing at the boy's plate. "He has steak," she announced proudly, as though it were the most astonishing discovery in the world. Emma felt her cheeks burn, mumbling apologies as she hurried to pull her daughter away, but instead of annoyance, she found laughter, warm, deep laughter that wrapped around her like a blanket. The man, this handsome stranger, offered a polite nod, as if inviting the interruption. For Emma, interruptions were mortifying. But for him, they were welcome. Something tugged inside her. She tried again to pull Lily back, but her daughter held on tight to the chair instead, refusing to leave. The little boy giggled, pleased by Lily's presence, and Emma felt like the floor might swallow her whole. The man cleared his throat gently and shifted toward Emma, offering a small, reassuring smile that felt impossibly kind. It was the kind of smile that understood exhaustion, understood responsibility, understood what it meant to raise a child alone. Something in his eyes told her he wasn't judging her. Not even a little. That alone threatened to undo her. Emma finally coaxed Lily back to her side, offering the men another apology, but he just shook his head, making it clear he didn't mind the interruption at all. And then, like someone had quietly rewritten the script of the night, something changed inside Emma. She felt seen. Not as a struggling mother. Not as someone who had been left behind. As a woman. She tried to brush it off, still searching for her actual blind date, praying he hadn't witnessed the chaos. She didn't want to start the evening apologizing for her child. She didn't want to see disappointment. Or worse, pity. But as she looked around, she couldn't find the men her friend had described. What she did find was the handsome man still looking her way, even as he focused on cutting his son's food. There was something about him, something unspoken but real. She told herself it was nothing. Just a coincidence. Just a stranger who happened to look at her kindly. But fate wasn't done yet. Minutes later, as Emma finally spotted her blind date arriving, late, frazzled, and clearly uninterested, her heart sank. He barely greeted her before his eyes dropped to her daughter with an expression she knew all too well, inconvenience. He made a comment that stung, something about how he didn't realize the kid would be coming, and everything inside Emma closed like a door slamming shut. She didn't want to be here anymore. She didn't want to be around someone who couldn't see Lily's worth. She didn't want to pretend that she wasn't exhausted or overwhelmed. She didn't want to beg for someone to think she was enough. Before she could gather the courage to leave, the man in the gray suit stood up. Emma didn't see him approach, she only looked up when she felt a quiet presence beside her table. He seemed hesitant, respectful, as though he didn't want to intrude. But his gaze was full of something unmistakable, sincerity. He spoke softly, but his message was clear, not in words, but in the warmth of his eyes. He had seen everything. He had understood everything. Her blind date made a dismissive sound and excused himself, quickly, awkwardly, leaving Emma humiliated and alone. But she wasn't alone. Not now. Not with this stranger standing beside her, offering her a kindness she hadn't tasted in years. His son peeked out from behind him, waving shyly at Lily again. And Lily, without hesitation, waved back. It was such a small gesture. Such a simple thing. But simple things have a way of cracking open the heart. And Emma felt something inside her soften, something she thought had died long ago. They talked. Carefully at first. Cautiously. Both single parents, navigating impossible schedules and endless responsibilities. He wasn't just successful, he was dedicated, grounded, deeply devoted to his son. And as he spoke, Emma discovered he wasn't a CEO who lived above the rest of the world, he was a father who knelt to tie his son's shoes, who showed up to every school event, who rearranged meetings just to be present. It was disarming. It was beautiful. It was real. The night unraveled gently, unexpectedly. Their children played. They laughed, a sound Emma hadn't heard from herself in so long that she almost didn't recognize it. The men watched her with a warmth that felt like sunlight after a long winter. And for the first time in years, Emma felt hope. Not the fragile kind she used to cling to. A new kind. A steady kind. A kind that walked toward her, not away. By the end of the evening, they weren't strangers anymore. They were two exhausted parents who understood each other in ways no one else ever had. Two lonely souls piecing themselves back together through small moments and shy smiles. And when they exchanged numbers, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire, Emma felt something she thought she'd never feel again. Possibility. A spark. The beginning of something she didn't dare name yet. But it was there. And her heart knew it. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps these emotional stories reach more wonderful viewers like you. Before the ending arrives, here is a small request. Please comment below, would you have followed your child's intuition the way Emma did? Emma left the restaurant holding her daughter's hand, unaware that her life had just turned a corner. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know where this connection would lead. But as Lily skipped beside her, humming to herself, and as Emma felt her phone vibrate with a new message from the men she had just met, a message that read simply, "It was really nice meeting you. Both of you." She allowed herself to smile. A real smile. A hopeful smile. Because sometimes love doesn't enter life with fireworks.